this video is going to get me in a bit of trouble with people that I know. The wedding tax. Does it actually exist? Can you counter it? And what are we to do? Hello everyone, my name is Grace. I am the founder and owner of Budget Wedding Stories, where we help couples like you have incredible memories for affordable prices. Now, when I first started wedding photography, I believe I charged $360 for my first all-day wedding video, and you could tell it was a wonderful time. It was a beautiful all-day wedding, but that was my first wedding charge that I charged, and so from there we've grown into a large company and facilitating hundreds of weddings each year. But one thing I often see, and is kind of a bit of a myth depending on which way you look at it, is the issue of the wedding tax. Pretty much as soon as you mention the word wedding, the price goes up. And I won't deny it, there is some aspect of truth to this, but I want to actually break down why it happens and how you can get around it. Now, being in the wedding industry for so long, I've managed to get to interact with a bunch of weddings, from your cheapest of your cheap to some really bougie ones as well. And what you often find is videographers and photographers really vying for the upper echelons of weddings because they get to charge a lot more. With higher paying clients comes just a lot easier for the wedding photographer. Say that you charge 3 times the normal amount of weddings that you do, the normal amount of a wedding photographer. That means you get to do a third of the work, essentially, maybe a little bit more in the one-on-one human interaction, but you get to make the same amount of money for pretty much almost a third of the work. So of course every wedding videographer and photographer is vying for those upper level weddings. That's why they are so keen on them. It's avoiding a lot of work. But you often also find with higher paying clients, this is a common thing that videographers and photographers often lament about, is that they're a lot more chill. Because they're paying more, they have a higher level of trust in you. There's always this complaint, it's always the low paying clients that complaining about skin tones and their hair texture and retouching and wanting album readjustments and re-edits to their video and stuff like that. And this is historically true. For people who don't have as much money, every dollar that they spend is that much more important to them. And of course, you know this as probably a bride who's DIYing most of her wedding. I don't have to tell you about this too much, but that's why you often find that videographers and photographers are trying to attract those higher clientele clients, which is why often a lot of the time their prices are through the roof. Now, let's get to it. All weddings and wedding suppliers kind of fall into a specialty of one of 3 categories. They are either fast at what they do, fast in communication, speed, delivery, etc. They are either good, you are getting the most phenomenal of the phenomenal, the excellent of the excellent, an incredible process and incredible product delivery, or you are getting cheap. One of those 3. Now, at Budget Wedding Stories, I try to aim to be at least affordable and fast, and we're working on the good as much as we can. But a lot of suppliers will often drop the cheap and really aim to be good or really aim to be fast. So that's why you kind of see these prices getting jacked up. Now with non-wedding events, things like parties and, birthdays and end of year celebrations and formals and stuff like that, people aren't exactly as focused on the good. So that's why they can afford to be a little bit more fast and cheap. Well, and here, I'll give you an example. For example, I, as a photographer, charge the same amount if I'm on a wedding or if I'm just going to a general party. To be honest, sometimes I actually charge a little bit more for parties, and I'll explain why later. But with a party, for example, for a booking, I essentially just need the time, date, location, and what type of shoot it is. And this pretty much gets summarized in maybe 2 messages back and forward. That's pretty much it. That's what I've had for most of my clientele. They just send the details through and I'm like, yep, here's the invoice. There we go. And that's it in terms of preparation. Maybe sometimes a 5-minute phone call, nothing really more than that. For a wedding, however, I've got the inquiry. We go back and forth about details. Sometimes they have figured out all of their details, sometimes they haven't. So we've got to wait for the final details to come through, like the date and venue. Then on top of that, we've got normally a pre-booking call, often like 10 or so minutes. Sometimes they go longer. Then we've got a few more back and forth emails as we figure out everything, get the right quote and package for their day. And then on top of that, we've got scheduling bookings, because all of our packages come with a complimentary booking call. And then on top of that, we're working out schedule detailing. I'm booking backup photographers just in case something happens last minute. Then we've got like figuring out the scheduling, the detailing, local research of the venue, watching weather in the lead up to the day, figuring out wet weather options. These are all the things that I'm preparing for a wedding in the backup for the same price. Now, I love weddings. I really do. And they are absolutely fantastic. And the reason I'm able to charge the same price despite heaps more prep is because they are a wonderful, regular system in the sense of all weddings pretty much have the same flow of day. I know the exact shots that I need for a wedding. Yes, there are a few requests here and there, but I pretty much have an idea of the exact wedding shots that I need each time. However, much different for over here. So, yes, weddings are, in a sense, and it's way more prep, but a lot less complex, if that makes sense. So, does the wedding tax exist? And I'm going to say yes, but for a nuanced reason. Because for a lot of photographers and videographers, especially if they're early in their career, they've been sold weddings as the one consistent, affordable way to make money in photography, doing something that they love. So they love cameras, they love taking an awesome picture, but they aren't particularly passionate about weddings as a whole. And so in that sense, photographing weddings serves as a means to an end. I don't have to go to a white-collar job. I don't have to do something that I hate or break my back doing something else. I can do something that I love, which is cameras and taking cool shots, but still get paid a very nice amount for it. So it's often served as this cushy way of pursuing your passion, which is really disappointing, if I'm being honest, because this is someone's wedding day and it's like one of the most critical centerpieces of their life for a lot of people. And it's such an important day with so many memories. Anyway, but that's what is sold to a lot of photographers and videographers as a way to make a consistent income, especially in this economy. So there are some suppliers out there that are purely jacking up their prices just because the wedding label is attached. Yes, I agree. I 100% affirm that. For most of your longer term videographers and photographers and venues and other suppliers that have been in the industry for a long time, it becomes less about that because eventually the passion dies out and the interest and excitement dies off, and it becomes less sustainable because weddings carry a lot of stress. And that's what a lot of people aren't willing to talk about in this conversation. Weddings carry a lot of stress for everyone involved because this is someone's one day. You can always have another party. You're going to have another birthday next year. Formals are a little bit similar, but it's not as big of a critical milestone as your wedding day. And if you stuff up someone's wedding day, wow, that is a way to kill someone's love and passion for your work. So they carry a lot more stress, which, yes, sometimes is reflected in the price. Let's be honest, what do we do about it? If you want a wedding for a non-wedding price, drop the expectations of having a wedding service. For example, I was on a wedding recently where the couple went to this beautiful local chapel, got married there, and they didn't really want to have a reception, if we're being entirely honest. But so what they did is they went to a local restaurant, booked out 2 big tables, and had their time there. I don't believe they booked it as a wedding, but they didn't have speeches. Sure, they had a cake, that was about it. They had a allocated bar tab, that was about it. And they didn't have a first dance or anything like that, no dancing. So they got a non-wedding price. And in that sense is, if you want a wedding, you're probably going to have to pay for a wedding price. But if you're just wanting something low-key, you don't need a sound system or gear or like extra space allocated to you in the restaurant. I think, like, if I'm being brutally honest, because it comes down to a question of ethics, right? Do I lie to this supplier and just say that it was a birthday party or a family gathering, which I guess technically they are, and then turn up and we're all in wedding outfits? Well, A, it's wrong to lie, so don't do that ethically, that's wrong. But B, if you are only having the expectations of a non-wedding event, I think it's perfectly fine to say, hey, we are just looking to have dinner after our wedding ceremony. Can we book out a few tables? Frame it as the actual logistical expectations that you want. I don't want sound gear. I don't want extra allocation towards us. I want a bar tab. I don't want a dancing space. We're not going to be playing loud music. We're just hanging out and having like some food together. If you create those expectations, I think you'll find that you'll probably get more of a non-wedding price than if you went in going, oh, we're having this big family gathering and so we need a sound gear, like we need a PA system, and we need like a dance floor, and we need like a table for like some really big food. So just adjust your expectations accordingly. With photographers, yes, there are photographers that will jack up their price because it's a wedding. You'll also find that there are photographers who will offer a little bit more affordably because it's a wedding and because they want to expand their portfolio into weddings. So just be aware of both of those options as well. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're seeing as a large trend, and I think kind of solves this issue, is we are seeing the split multi-day ceremony. So for example, bride and groom and maybe under 10 people go and get their vows done at the registry and then wait a year or even half a year or even a month later, however much time later, and they have their big party celebration. Now that can be as a wedding, that can be as a dinner, you get the idea. The multi-day wedding is definitely making a big comeback, especially as people are trying to afford weddings and not having as much money. So that's an option as well. Anyway, is there anything we missed talking about the wedding tax? I would love to hear it down below. Yes, there are some slimy vendors out there that are purely in it for the money. Money makes the world go round, unfortunately. That's what we have to deal with. But there are a lot of vendors out there who wouldn't charge more just because it's a wedding. And my encouragement would be to find those people, to find those who are truly passionate about your day, and ultimately have a fantastic day, save a little bit more money. Anyway, see you in the next video.